Welcome back to 3-Day Rental, the video game show where I take a game from my collection and play it like it's due back at the store in 72 hours. And today, we are renting Star Wars Fallen Order. For Star Wars fans, there's just something about that Star Wars experience that hits so right. The music fades in, that familiar feeling starts to wash over you, and you just can't wipe the smile from your face. This is Star Wars Fallen Order, and in its opening moments we meet our protagonist Cal. Cal is a simple scrapper whose quiet life gets upended, and before you know it, he's busting out a lightsaber and...
I found the Jedi!
Cal eventually meets up with a friendly little exploration droid called BD-1. And just like that, they're off to... Wait, I'm sure I've heard this story before. There's a hero, and then they have a droid companion. You know, the one with the hero and then... Never mind. Forget about it. Cal and BD-1 are tasked with tracking down a Jedi holocron that contains a list of all the Force-sensitive children left in the galaxy. The holocron could be used to rebuild the Jedi Order, and the majority of the game is focused on Cal and BD-1's missions to various planets in the quest to find it. And yeah, Fallen Order does fall back on that, sure, maybe a little overused Star Wars formatting, and I'd be lying if I said our heroes Cal and BD-1 are any different, but Fallen Order just has this absolutely cinematic vibe to it that makes you sort of forget about all that. The story presented here feels like watching a movie, and there were a couple of moments where I got lost in the cinematics and sort of forgot I was playing a video game. But there's something strangely familiar about that storyline, despite its gorgeous presentation. Everything here is so textbook Star Wars, from Greez, the gruff captain with a history of gambling, to Ciri, the wise yet flawed former Jedi with a troubled past. And yeah, the unbelievable visuals sort of gave me a short reprieve from the seemingly mundane, overplayed storyline of a droid carrying a message of hope for the Jedis. Wait.
This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to report that both our Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen.
Never mind. I'm in. Yeah, Fallen Order is part of Star Wars canon, and that's pretty cool. No, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's got nearly all the overused tropes we've come to expect from a Star Wars product, but it does mean that this isn't just a side story legend. Cal's story takes place 5 years after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and the execution of Order 66 by Darth Sidious. The story from here is fairly simple and straightforward, but it's the presentation that really shines for Fallen Order. There's definitely a vibe that you're playing through a movie script, and I'm here for it.
Watch yourself in there.
You hear that? Said he needs my help. Come on, buddy.
I love it when a game has you thinking about it while you're not playing it, and you're just anxious for the next session that you get to power your console on and give it another try. Fallen Order absolutely has that going for it, and I was super anxious to get back into playing it on day 2. Combat in Fallen Order makes you feel like an absolute boss. Whether you're slicing your way through stormtroopers or taking down AT-STs and wiping out their drivers, it's a good time. There's even a full sequence that perfectly combines platforming and combat as you single-handedly infiltrate an AT-AT, remove its drivers, and use it against the Empire. Awesome. Combat was the one time that I really felt like I could play Cal the way I wanted to. There are loads of different ways you can approach combat, and that was sort of a freeing experience in a game that otherwise feels pretty linear and structured. One of my favorites was force pushing enemies off cliffs as an opening move before a battle with a group of enemies. Something about sending them flying off an edge was absolutely hilarious to me. Enemies each have their own attack patterns and movesets. You can parry, counterattack, and dodge, all of which is satisfying when you can pull it off seamlessly. Dark Souls fans will feel right at home here. Cal gets his lightsaber out in the very first fight scene of the game, and it's pretty clear from that moment on, you're going to be battling at every turn. Eventually, you'll unlock the ability to have a double-bladed lightsaber too that can, for a short time at least, become two separate lightsabers. There isn't much variance in combat besides that, though. Cal's skill tree is very limited and doesn't feel as specialized as something like a Diablo 2 does. Cal can't even pick up weapons or specialize much in a specific style of lightsaber combat, or even use blasters. He's got a pretty simple skill tree with 3 branches to work on: Force abilities, lightsaber skills, and survival. None of these branches is very robust, and it was pretty simple to unlock most of them during my playthrough. It just never feels like my Cal is going to end up playing any differently than anyone else's Cal. I'm really struggling to make my playthrough feel unique to me, and it's just not happening. Traversal and exploration has me feeling like I'm playing a reskinned Uncharted or Tomb Raider, and Cal does spend a lot of time exploring tombs. There's quite a lot of what's become fairly standard platforming, the climbing and wall running mixed with some light puzzling. As you visit each of the 5 major explorable planets for the first time, you're met with a bunch of areas that are inaccessible. There's an obvious Metroidvania vibe here, and it's clear early on that many doors and paths are blocked and that backtracking will be necessary as the game progresses. Backtracking is actually a pretty good opportunity to praise the really well-designed map system in Fallen Order. Exploration is color-coded with inaccessible passages marked in red, explored areas in yellow, and previously explored, now accessible areas in green. The whole thing is 3-dimensional and can be rotated to give you a better viewpoint of where to head next. Fallen Order lacks in choice. The game is just so incredibly streamlined that it feels like your experience is going to be virtually identical to anyone else who's playing the game. Cosmetic chests. Yep, that's one of the few ways you can make gameplay experience unique to you. It's skins. So while your poncho might be different from most other players, your experience isn't going to change much. And yeah, I did do my share of customization, but it was more or less because I'd run across a workbench every so often, and well, why not? But simple cosmetics aren't really enough of a reason for me to want to explore every corner of a map. Beyond progressing the main storyline, there isn't exactly much else to do here. Fallen Order is very linear. You won't find any side quests here beyond the odd commentary from a crew member that there may be an unexplored area on a planet you've already been to. If you're a completionist, you might be perfectly happy getting sidetracked and revisiting planets in an effort to track down every lightsaber skin and unlock all the items in Cal's skill tree, but that just isn't for me. Maybe I've been spoiled for choice in playing games like Knights of the Old Republic 2, but Fallen Order just doesn't feel like anything's gonna happen any differently than the way that the story's been written for you. I kept hoping for a moment when Cal became tempted, a moment of weakness when he might consider the path to the dark side. Maybe a sliding scale indicating which path Cal's headed down, a light side or dark side choice. And Cal is so close to a perfect candidate for this sort of storyline. He's self-assured and cocky, he suffered the loss of his former mentor and harbors guilt and grief. That's just not this story. Fallen Order is a game that wants you to play through its story. You're not writing your own script here, and you'll have a very similar experience to others who've played it. And that's okay, because it's a really fantastic story and experience. I'm just left wondering at the end of the day if I would have liked it half as much whether it were not a Star Wars story. Fallen Order is a relatively short playthrough, coming in right around 17 hours, and the story is entertaining and solid enough to carry you through the experience, however linear it may be. The combat is the shining star here, and while it's very comparable to the Souls experience, the lightsaber and Force combat additions are worth visiting this one for. But when I finally ran credits on this one, I wasn't at all tempted to walk back through and tidy up any last errands or undiscovered chests. There's just not a lot to get excited about when it comes to replay value, and you're really only going to get invested in this one for the first and only playthrough. At the end of the day, Star Wars Fallen Order is absolutely a worthwhile addition to Star Wars canon. It is definitely worth checking out, and a totally awesome 3-day rental.